Welcome to my series, Does the Bible Tell You So? I'm Dr. Jennifer Bird. I am a biblical scholar, and I care very much about what people do with what they find in the Bible. I happen to be a person who's interested in talking about what's really going on in there, as well as we can tell, and then talking about what to do with it today. I'm also very interested in being almost painfully honest about what's going on in there. So here's the thing. I've had someone ask recently if there's a difference in terms of sexual immorality between the Hebrew Bible and the Newer Testament. And the short answer to that is no, not really. And when I thought about that question, I thought about the two lists that are in the letters attributed to Paul. And I'm going to look at 1 Corinthians 6, verse 9, 9 and 10. And so let me look at it with you briefly. So do you not know that wrongdoers will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. And I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version, Updated Edition. The sexually immoral, idolaters, adulterers, male prostitutes, with a note that the Greek there is uncertain, men who engage in illicit sex, also a note, Greek is uncertain. And then verse 10, thieves, the greedy, drunkards, revilers, swindlers, none of these will inherit the kingdom of God. What I found really interesting this morning was thinking about and comparing various translations. And that's because I think that, for instance, the New Revised Standard Version used to say fornicators, now they say sexually immoral. Well, what do either of those mean? What is that label pointing to in terms of acts? We really don't know. That's the thing, folks. We really don't know. Idolaters, we kind of have a handle on that. It's interesting it's thrown in the middle of these sexual acts, but adulterers, that's the same. In the New Revised Standard Version, so the former version of it, they used to say male prostitutes and sodomites, and now they say male prostitutes and men who engage in illicit sex. The NIV is also really interesting because instead of saying male prostitutes and men who engage in illicit sex, they say men who have sex with men. And their explanation there is this phrase translates two Greek words that refer to the passive and the active participants in homosexual acts. Very clever and creative, actually, which makes a little bit of sense, I have to be honest, because the Greek there is malakoi, so some form of softness, and then this term arsenokoitai. Arsenokoitai, if you pull that word apart in the Greek, arsen is a form of a noun for a man, and koitai, do you hear the word coitus in there? Right? Is it a man who lies with other men? Is it someone who lies with men for sex implied? Which is why the notes say we're not really sure what this points to. I'm kind of all over the page on this one, partly because I wanted to look at these terms briefly with you, show you that we're not even sure what some of these terms are talking about. And then I want to take a quick step back and say, and what do we know from the writers of the Newer Testament in terms of their view on sex or sexual immorality, which is the question that I'm trying to respond to here. And if we think about it in terms of a Hebrew Bible, sexual immorality is any form of sex that isn't what was appropriate, and it usually has to do with a female, right? Some male having sex with her who isn't her husband or her man. And it doesn't matter if that man is married or not. And so that's usually adultery, right? So what's beyond that? Is that a man having, what is beyond that in terms of the Hebrew Bible? Because men get to have sex with all kinds of women that they aren't married to. What is considered fornication in the Hebrew Bible? I honestly can't answer that question. What is fornication here? I honestly can't. Is it a certain position? Is it at the wrong time of day? Is it outdoors in public instead of indoor? I don't know. And what I think is so interesting is this ancient preoccupation with other people's sex lives and the vilification of it. Because clearly there's something going on here. Men with men is considered a problem within the Newer Testament context, even if it's not really actually clear, which it's not really clear what these words designate. I don't know if there's anything helpful in here. One other thing, food for thought, kind of bearing the lead here. Both Jesus and Paul, aside from these lists, right, talk about sex and marriage intertwined, and they talk about marriage and divorce in light of sex. You having sex with this woman you've married means you've claimed her, which means that's why you can't divorce, is because you're going to go have sex with someone else. That's why you can't divorce, is you're going to commit adultery on that first spouse. Very ancient ways of thinking about bodies, claiming bodies as territory or property, thinking about what sex is meant for. Is it meant for procreation? Do people, was Paul well steeped in that? Likely. All kinds of things. And then the last tidbit on this from my perspective is this is one of those lists that Paul has where he's doing an all or nothing. He's essentializing people. I know a lot about, when you take life as all or nothing, right? You can only be very good or bad, no in between. Like that just doesn't work well in life. And when you start calling people thieves, greedy, drunkards, instead of having tendencies to drink too much, right? There's a difference there in what you're doing and saying and thinking about people. And that actually concerns me as well. So I guess those ways of thinking and judging are intertwined, aren't they? Some food for thought.